So in a world where we're constantly trying to make the right decisions that will benefit us financially, it becomes a little bit difficult to choose the correct investments. So that is the question. What are the correct investments that we should all be investing in for the long term? That's exactly what we're going to be covering today. So get yourself prepared because it starts right now. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Let's Talk Finances. My name is Trey, and on this channel, we like to dedicate our time in helping you get out of debt, stay out of debt, reach financial independence so that you can begin building wealth. If that's something that you are interested in, let's go ahead and start right now by hitting that subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you don't miss any other content just like this one. The first funds that we're going to be covering, and that is Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund, or ETF. Ticker symbols VTSAX for the index fund and VTI for its exchange traded fund. It comprises of 3,791 stocks. The expense ratio for VTSAX is 0.04%, to whereas VTI is 0.03%. Both very, very low expense ratios. Let's jump into the 1, 5, and 10-year returns for both of these funds. The 1-year return is 62.73%, the 5-year return is 16.65%, and the 10-year return is 13.79%. The second fund for Vanguard that you'll need to go ahead and complete that portfolio is Vanguard's Total International Stock Market Index Fund, as well as Exchange Traded Fund. The ticker symbols VTIAX for the index fund and VXUS for the Exchange Traded Fund. Let's go into the breakdown. Now, this one comprises of 7,576 stocks. The expense ratio for VTIAX is 0.11%, to whereas VXUS is 0.08%. The 1, 5, and 10-year return. 1-year return, 52.80%. 5-year return, 9.97%. And its 10-year return is 5.22%. In terms of minimum investment and more of a specific breakdown for each fund, I'm going to link it down in the descriptions below. For those of you who are diehard Vanguard investors, put down in the comments below if these are some of the funds that you have in your portfolio, and if not, which ones do you have? Now, for those of you who want a little bit more of a breakdown in terms of the best index funds for Vanguard, I actually went over it in this video, so be sure to check that video out after this one. Moving right on along to Fidelity's index funds, the only ones that you need to invest for the long term. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different from Vanguard's, all right? So I'm actually going to add some of Fidelity's zero funds, as well as some of their other funds. We're going to have a total of 4. Now, these particular funds do not carry exchange traded funds, but it will not stop you, the Fidelity investor, from making those long-term gains. So, index fund number 1, Fidelity's Zero Total Market Index Fund. Ticker symbol FZROX. Now, this one comprises of about 2,300 stocks. Its expense ratio is, you guessed it, 0, and its 1-year return is 43.79%. Now, obviously, there's no 5 or 10-year breakdown for the Fidelity Zero funds, being that they're so new, but their first year they actually did very well. It's one that I've been recommending to a lot of the new investors. The second fund to match this one is going to be Fidelity's Zero Total International Fund. Ticker symbol FZIL. Here's the breakdown. It comprises of 6,932 stocks. Its expense ratio, again, is 0, and its 1-year return is 10.02%. So the next Fidelity fund is actually going to be Fidelity's Total Market Index Fund. Ticker symbol FSKAX. This one has 3,658 stocks. Now, if you do the comparison between this one as well as its zero counterpart, there's almost a difference of 2,000 in terms of its holdings. Its expense ratio was 0.01%. Its 1-year return is 41.25%. 5-year return is 14.40%. And we currently do not have a 10-year return. Now, the second fund to match with this one is going to be Fidelity's Total International Index Fund. ticker symbol FTIHX. This one comprises of 4,754 stocks. Its current expense ratio is 0.06%, and its 1-year return is 36.49%. So all of these are relatively newer index funds, but it should not stop you, the Fidelity investor, from choosing from one of these 4 funds. For those of you who want to know which funds are best on Fidelity's end, in this video I went over that, so be sure to check that one out after this. So now let's go into why these are the only funds that you'll need for the long-term investor. The difficulties that new investors will have sometimes would be that they don't really know what to invest in. What I've seen oftentimes are new investors, they'll have 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 different funds in their portfolio when it's not necessary. So for those of you who've never heard of the lazy portfolio, it's actually one of my favorite portfolios. And the reason that is because it makes it very, very simple. All right. So the objective for investing is always going to be to minimize the amount of risk while maximizing your return on investment. So you want to ensure that you are investing in a low-fee index fund that invests across the broad market. And you can do just that by investing in 2 particular funds, a total stock market index fund, as well as a total international index fund. There are 2 questions that are going to be raised, at least that I had with these funds. The first thing is, okay, do I really need to invest in an international fund when John Bogle has stated that he doesn't like international funds, which is true. He did state that. But I will counter that by saying the market is a little bit different now as opposed to, let's say, 20 years ago. The returns between domestic and international is always going to fluctuate. So right now, obviously, the domestic market is doing a lot better than the international market. However, if you go back about 20 to 25 years, it was actually the international market that was doing better than the domestic market. So what exactly does this mean? It means don't and stop trying to time the market. Just let the market do its thing. There's no better way to diversify your portfolio than to invest in a total international as well as a total domestic stock market index fund. And that's exactly what you would be doing by choosing these funds. The second question that I would run into is, do I need to invest in bonds? So obviously the lazy portfolio generally is a 3-fund portfolio, a domestic fund, an international fund, and then a bond. But here is my take on bonds, and J.L. Collins would also agree. Now, if you don't know who J.L. Collins is, he is the author of one of the best-selling books, which is entitled The Simple Path to Wealth. And if you've never read that book, I highly encourage you to do so. What exactly is the intent of a bond? A bond is there, or its intent is to smooth out the ride, being that investing in the stock market can be very, very volatile. So in order to negate the volatility, you would invest in some bonds that has extremely low volatility while being able to cushion your investments. However, my thought process on this is, if you're handling your finances the proper way, I would allow my emergency fund and or savings to be my cushion. So if the stock market takes a blow, I can rely on my cash and liquid assets to be able to cushion that blow. So for me, I'm 100% in stocks, and I don't invest in any bonds, and I don't intend to until I become a little bit closer to retirement. Now, obviously, you don't have to do that. And if you do decide to invest in some bonds, then I would also highly recommend a domestic and international bond as well. And there's one more question would be, well, what should my allocation be? What percentage of my funds should be allocated to domestic and what percentage should be allocated to international? Well, currently on Vanguard's website, it states that you should be 20 and 40% invested internationally. And I concur with that. So the sweet spot, I would say, is between 20 and 30% internationally invested. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. As a matter of fact, it's not complicated at all. Invest in these 2 funds for the long haul, and you'll set yourself up for a very comfortable nest egg, should I even say millionaire status, by the time you retire. And so there you have it, guys. The only 2 funds that you need for the long-term investment strategy that will get you where you need to be. So if you found this video to be helpful in any way, Don't forget to subscribe and also smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, I want to thank the men and women of this country who have served and who continue to serve. We all greatly appreciate you. Until the next video, guys, let's talk finances then.